Gotta tell you this, when I was a young guy and I lived in the Bronx, the big thing was to have a girlfriend.
Is that only in the Bronx?
Well, that's what it was in the Bronx. I didn't know too much about anything else because I only was born in the Bronx.
I thought you only lived in the Bronx till you were like 7.
That's right. So
started early.
by the time I was 7 is when I found out about girls.
Wow.
And how did I find out about girls?
Don't ask.
They taught me. The girl teacher was all about the whole thing. When a girl is 7, she's equivalent to a boy of 14.
Or so you think.
I'm telling you, they know everything. First of all, the biggest thing was to go down to the carriage room. The carriage room is where you put the baby carriages in, and they put them in so that you couldn't get in or out unless somebody moved the carriage. And that's one of the first tricks of the trade. Move the carriage out of the way so that you could get in there, and those little girls were in there waiting for you. You know? And as they say, I moved out of the Bronx when I was 7.
Yeah.
So between my ages of 5 and 7, I got a real education. I mean, believe me.
What did you learn?
Those little Bronx girls, they knew everything. They and
what was the most important thing that you learned, BC?
the most important thing I learned was how to move the carriages. Once you move the carriage, you were safe.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I want to ask you if you were trying to teach me about the birds and the bees, and you said, I'm not talking about no birds and bees. I'm trying to tell you about girls.
That's right.
That's not a factual analogy, birds and bees, right?
No,
it should be birds and it should be bees and
birds and
flowers or something.
Yeah, birds and flowers go together. But anyway,
all right, now, so how did the booking girls stack up, so to speak?
well, when I got to be 7, by this time I was like an experienced guy, and I moved out. We moved out to Brooklyn. So my mother, who was a very charitable woman, used to run these theater parties, where she'd sell tickets to the theater, and the difference between what she sold it for and what she paid for was a charitable adventure for her. And but she'd have to buy 100 tickets at a time or something like that to get a good price. I, on the other hand, didn't understand that part of it, because that was already a business. But I did find out one thing. When she had a lot of tickets, she liked to fill up the theater. So she'd give out the tickets to people.
Like a movie theater?
It was a movie theater, yeah. To go to the theater, to the movies. And remember, this was a long time ago, so the movies were kind of a novelty. And you go to the movies.
These are silent movies?
The what?
Silent movies?
There were silent movies, but they'd have music. The guys would play the band or something, keep it peppy. Otherwise, you could fall asleep. But also, by this time, remember, I was already 7 years old, and I was very familiar with girls.
Just do a little rotation so we know who's in the audience.
It was girls were all over the place.
Half the population.
Half the population seemed to be girls. The biggest thing about the girls and the boys being 7, 8, I guess by the time I was 10, I could show them how to unfasten a bra. That was a big event.
This has got to be off. 10 years old?
I don't think 8-year-old girls wear bras.
Oh, they didn't wear bras, but they wore something. I don't know. But I figured out how to do it, and I teach all these guys. And I said, when you get in the movie, sit down in the seat, start trying to take off a bra. That was the first thing I had to teach these guys. They didn't even understand what I was talking about. I was already brought up in the Bronx. These were Brooklyn farm boys. they could have been out.
Hey, let's get our take from a South Dakota farm boy. Hey, how was it in South Dakota? Mostly hayfields and
Corn mostly.
corn.
Really.
All right.
Oh, South Dakota.
Back to
So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, like,
So anyway, so pretty soon I got to be known as the guy who knew where the girls were.
The bra guy.
You know, and I
and
was,
then he opened the panty business.
we had all these girls who lived on our street because we had a lot of houses on the street. They were all 2-family houses, and they all had families in them that were young and they were just starting out.
Nubile girls.
One thing they had was children, and most of the children were girls. Girls are the big thing.
You got those nuts, don't worry.
But you got to get a little bag to put.
I've just been putting them in a little bag that I call a
But
pocket.
you keep throwing them out there.
Yeah.
So do you remember Angie's girls' names?
Yeah, I do, but I don't want to mention them because they're still around.
Statute of limitations is expired.
And but they were usually sisters, you know. I always remember the 2 sisters lived next door to me was Alice and Charlotte, and I think they were 2 years apart. But the older one, who I think
You're missing quite a story
Mom, you
here.
got a heck of a story here.
Steve is telling us that when he was growing up, he was the first of the boys to learn how to undo girls' bras.
At the age of 7.
In the movie theater.
He was known as the guy who knew about girls, apparently.
see. So I used to fix
For
everybody.
the record, Megan's here, so he'll probably clean it up a little bit.
Now I used to fix up all the guys with the girls. So that when they have parties, they always have little party. I was always invited because I had all my friends who were boys would come along, but they were too bashful to join in until they were invited. So I always got the extra tickets, 2 tickets to go in. My mother would give them to me, and I'd give them to these people, and they'd say, take the girl, take your girlfriend.
You see, what was your mother's name?
My mother's name? My mother's name was Susie. Susie. And she was a go-getter because she was out to make money for the charities. It was always a question of getting rid of the tickets at the end of the show, and nobody wanted them because they would sell the tickets. And if she had tickets left over, she would give them to me, and all the tickets were always in pairs.
Wow.
Did you see that move?
She avoided the camera. Amazing.
All right.
That was smooth. That was smooth.
Yeah, she's
Gifted.
so anyway, that was
So what did your father call your mother?
my father called my mother Shusha. Shusha. That was her Jewish name, I guess. But he